Touch is tricky. It's considered to be one of the postpartum pillars, touch, loving touch, but it's also, as mums, we can often feel really touched out, and often touch from our partner can feel like there's an expectation of returned intimacy.
Yeah, it's more of a sexual touch.
Yeah, and even if it's just a loving hand on your shoulder, sometimes, if you're feeding a baby with sore nipples and you've got a toddler climbing on you and your husband touches you, your partner touches you, you just want to be like, F off.
Yeah. Welcome to No Place Like Home. I am Larissa and I'm here with Jess.
Hi, everyone.
And today we are going to talk about practical postpartum recovery tips.
That's right.
Yes.
So,
which I know you're already looking at me because you're going to ask me mine.
What did you do to help yourself recover from birth?
Choc mint slice biscuits. Well, aside from my beautiful mother cooking for me, I just didn't have a lot.
Did you have any tears or?
So I, interestingly, with Valentina, I tore in instead of out. So I actually healed really quickly. And I have to say, in the hospital, the things that delighted me the most, there were so many new things about after the birth, but the thing that delighted me the most was the water-filled condoms that froze and then you gave yourself relief by popping them in your undies. They were like the best thing ever. They, I think, helped me heal a lot quicker too. But so aside from that tear, I didn't really have anything else. Like I had like really good births in terms of,
Yeah. But terrible breastfeeding experiences, right? So even though it doesn't really fall into the recovery, I guess,
of my body, you
didn't even know that lactation consultants were a thing until you called the hospital and they said, oh, we have a lactation clinic, you can come in. And at that stage, your nipples were bleeding. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's just terrible that you were so uninformed that you didn't even know that there was lactation consultants there or, So, of course, you're not going to know about all these other wonderful things that we can do.
No. So I think all I knew of was, I would go to the pharmacy and look for something that would like soothe or
Lanzano
help.
Or...
Yeah. So I had like truckloads of all of that and then the nipple shields and all the rest of it. But aside from, there was no caring for myself in terms of like preventative, okay, this is what I'm going to do now.
No focus on rest.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
No, not at all. No. What did you do? What were yours?
So I was so lucky because I had a birth doula for my first birth, well, for both births, but especially my first birth. My birth doula was just so amazing. So as we spoke about when I shared my postpartum stories, she was, as soon as my placenta got checked by the midwives, she chucked it into a dehydrator.
That's right.
And then the next day she came over, blitzed it into a powder, popped it into capsules, and I had my first placenta pill sort of, I think it was 14 hours after Louis was born. And she also, got me onto all of these wonderful things. I didn't expect my vulva to be so sore.
Oh.
So I remember when I first, and I guess it's my perineum as well, but just that whole area was was so bruised and tender that I'll never forget when I first threw, I flopped onto the couch. I sort of threw my body down and I was like, wasn't expecting that tenderness, but I was really lucky. My doula got me onto the peri bottle. So, so it's a bottle and they used to be so hard to find in Melbourne. It's only in about the last year that they're sort of gaining in popularity and you can even buy them at the Memo and places like that now. But so it's a bottle and you squeeze it onto yourself when you're going to the bathroom. So it's almost like some people call them a portable bidet and it's, you squeeze it. So, like when you're doing a wee
Yeah.
and you've got a cut or a graze or anything, it stings so much. So you can squirt water on there to help with that. And then also if you need to wipe after doing a poo but you've got tearing there, you can also use it to wash yourself rather than having to use toilet paper and it gets stuck.
Okay, so this is going to sound really, but is it like a fess but for your down bits?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can, I'm pretty sure I only did water in mine, but you can also make beautiful herbal concoctions to go in them.
Yeah,
to,
okay.
For
Or saline. You can use saline
definitely. And calming herbs to help with inflammation and stuff like that. So I was really excited about adult nappies in my postpartum.
What is this? So this is going to be like a whole education for me, this episode, I feel like.
Well, I actually felt really ripped off in my first postpartum because my midwife was like, you don't need them. I've got these big surfboard pads. And all I wanted was to wear those big undies that catch everything. And she told me I didn't need them. And so then I had the giant pads, but of course they slid around and I got blood on my brand new mattress. And in my second birth, I made sure I had the, like I'm talking like Depend or Tenor, like because so now there's actual undies that are designed for postpartum. There's Partum panties and brands like that. They're actually for in your postpartum to wear, because what happens is you've seen how much, like, it's not just a little bit of blood that comes out. It's blood. It's mucus. There's so much liquid. And so the amazing thing about adult nappies is that they catch all of it. So, and it's very wasteful because, they're a big thing and you sort of will go through a pack of them in sort of maybe your first 5 or so days. Yeah. But I always say it's one time where you're allowed to be that little bit wasteful is, just buy the adult nappies. They catch everything. You don't have to worry about anything slipping. You just take them off and put them in the bin when you're done. It's the most, it's the best. It's my top thing. If anyone's like, what do I need for postpartum? I'm like, adult nappies.
Yeah, right.
I love them.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, I just want to have children for all of these postpartum things.
And then I guess, so what else did I do? I definitely had, the compresses for my boobs. I think my doula made pads for me after I had Louis, with the aloe vera and witch hazel and things. And she also gave me this spray that I could spray underneath to help. It was a cooling, calming spray.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, so I had those things. So the adult nappies, the spray, the pads. What did I do for my boobs? I can't even remember now. All the lactation cookies and the wonderful diet and things like that, the placenta pills.
Diet plays such a huge role, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. But there was also a big emphasis on rest for me. Like my midwife was really strict about it. And I didn't know at the time. It wasn't until I was pregnant with Jude that the first 40 days came out and I could read that and go, oh, okay, this is why we rest. But my midwife had just said to me, you have to rest. And I didn't get it, but I obediently did what she said. And I realised the first time I took Louis to a doctor's visit, I would have been about a week postpartum, and we were in apartments, right? So you're living very close to everything. And it was a short walk to get to the doctor. But by the time I got home, I was so tired, and I realised that's why my midwife has told me I need to rest. Sort of one of those penny dropped moments. And then I guess between pregnancies, I guess I just learned a little bit more. So I definitely had the herbal sits after I had Jude.
Oh yeah. Tell us about that. Herbal sits.
Herbal sits. So a herbal sits is, so you brew herbs, almost like, imagine like a giant tea bag filled with herbs, but with specific anti-inflammatory benefits for cuts, grazes, tears and everything in your nether region. So you make almost like a big bowl of tea but with those special herbs in it, and then you sit in it and it provides relief and brings warmth, and astringent qualities and all of that to help heal.
So
help
the
you heal.
steam or the
Oh no,
this isn't.
So this is different to yoni steaming. Yeah, so this is and you can also just pop it in a bath. So some people will sit sort of on the bowl of herbs. Other people will put those herbs into the peri bottle that we spoke about earlier. Yeah. Sometimes you can also do a very shallow bath, so sort of just up to your hips, and you put the brewed herbs into there, and you sort of sit in it, and it helps all that warm water and herbs. You don't want to have loose herbs floating around because then they get stuck to you, and then that's even worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So if we just go back to the diet and if we talk about that first postpartum poo.
How was yours? Do you remember?
Oh, it wasn't great.
I just remember being terrified.
I remember being absolutely terrified. I thought, and it, I think about it now and I'm like, you just gave birth to a human being. A poo's not going to split you in half. But
it
I was
feels like it at the time.
I was like, this poo's going to split me in half. Like, oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. Ouch.
Yeah.
It's
it took
scary.
me a few days.
Yeah. It takes a lot of people a few days. Often
my
people,
body was so constricted.
Yeah. And your digestion's all funny after you give birth. So,
and I had hospital food, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I always say to my clients, high fiber is really important. And I love psyllium husk for keeping things soft and consistent.
Yeah.
So I always recommend having psyllium husk, whether you pop some in banana bread or you make some pancakes and chuck it in. I really wanted to put a recipe in Life After Birth for these buckwheat pancakes that I make, but there wasn't enough space in that book for all the things I wanted to put in there. So the recipe is in one of my other cookbooks. And slippery elm bark is another good one. And I mean, I see a lot of my clients just take stool softeners. But you can, there are
many beautiful natural ways.
Yeah, and psyllium husk is just great. And if anyone's ever had Metamucil, it's the same thing. Metamucil is psyllium husk, but it's got flavorings and stuff added.
Yeah.
Whereas you can pop psyllium husk in your food and it just helps that poo.
So good.
Helps that poo slip on out.
Such good advice. Okay, what else is there? Ice. Warmth.
Yeah, so it's a tricky one with that. So if we're talking about healing your perineum and your grazes and things, it's really important to ice yourself in the beginning to help with inflammation. But then it's also really important to bring warmth to the area to help with healing. So I think it's ice. Vaughn would know this. Where is she when I need her? She's bloody in Europe. Ice for the first, don't quote me, I want to say the first 24 to 48 hours is ice, and then after that it's warmth.
Right.
But definitely anyone listening, do your homework on that, because it's something, I just thought it was meant to be ice for, weeks on end, or, the first couple of weeks or however long you had pain. But it's more recently we found out that it's ice first and then warmth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Massage.
Oh, I mean, I don't know if you had this, but after I had Louis, I couldn't believe how sore my triceps were, because all of a sudden I'm holding this baby all the time in this way that I've never held a weight that constantly. And I mean, you just get such a sore back, so much back pain and, always up here. And I don't think I had any kind of massage after I had Louis. Maybe my doula gave me a couple of little, lovely massages. But after I had Jude, I booked in an at-home postpartum massage. I was like, I am not skipping that this time around.
Any of that. I'm spewing. I didn't do any of that.
Yeah, and it's so important because the thing is touch. Touch is tricky. It's considered to be one of the postpartum pillars, touch, loving touch. But it's also, as mums, we can often feel really touched out, and often touch from our partner can feel like there's an expectation of returned intimacy.
Yeah, it's more of a sexual touch.
Yeah, and even if it's just a loving hand on your shoulder, sometimes, if you're feeding a baby with sore nipples and you've got a toddler climbing on you and your husband touches you, your partner touches you, you just want to be like, F off.
Yeah. It's too much.
But massage is really important for so many things, and especially circulation and
yes. If you are traditionally resting in bed, massage is very important for circulation and flow.
Yeah. So it's not for everyone, but there are different ways to be touched, and often people find that having someone come in and give them a massage feels very different to their partner trying to awkwardly give them a massage.
I know that we've talked about we've probably spoken more about vaginal births.
Yes.
But C-section.
Very important to discuss. So we're going back to what are some good practical recovery tips for people who have had a C-section. I'll never forget one of my clients. Having a C-section is major abdominal surgery.
Huge.
And look at anyone. You get a hip replacement, you get any kind of major surgery. There's a lot of recovery time. But people almost look at people with a C-section and go, oh, you'll be right. Off you go. And
it's still
you really need to be looking after yourself. Rest is so important, and staying on top of pain management. So some people try and be a hero and go, oh, I don't need those tablets. But if you're in a lot of pain, your oxytocin isn't flowing, and that's going to interfere with breastfeeding, and it's all just this. It can become a cascade of, quite an awful time. So, staying on top of pain management is really, really important.
Yeah.
But what I was about to say about my client is her husband is very funny, and he was making her laugh, and I'll never forget, I can hear her right now, because he'd say something funny and she'd be like, stop it, Adam, stop making me laugh, because it was hurting her C-section so much. And so some really good things you can do, not only when you're laughing, but also if you're crying or if you're going to the bathroom and you need to push to get a poo out, is holding either a pillow or a rolled up towel over your incision just to support it so that you don't.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah. And, for both vaginal and cesarean births, recovery shorts are quite popular.
That was one thing I did.
Okay.
There you go. Yeah, I've got one.
Great. The only thing I'll say about those is they do restrict airflow. So, they're often these tight, not very breathable fabrics, and ideally, especially if you've got a cut or an incision, you want to be getting airflow. So it's like, wear them, but also don't live in them,
Yeah.
And I guess another way of doing that would be the belly binding. So you're getting the support on your belly, but it's not everywhere. You're quite a fan of belly binding now, aren't you? Now that you know.
Well, I am now.
Yeah.
But I'm like 11 years postpartum. Anyway, it's fine. We can still get belly binding.
So belly binding. Belly binding's really beautiful. However, it can be used as some cultures, or some parts of some cultures look at it as a weight loss thing. It's like, we better get your belly back down. And I think for that reason, some people have gone, belly binding's bad. But if you look at its function, it's to support you, especially your back, and everything's changed. All of a sudden you've got all this emptiness in here. So it's supporting you, supporting your circulation.
Yeah.
And also, do you know about diastasis? So abdominal separation. So helping to prevent that.
Yes.
So it's all about gently supporting your organs and helping them, sort of guiding them back into place. And you can have the traditional belly binding with the long piece of fabric that looks really beautiful, or you can even just I have for my clients, if they want it, just a piece of stretchy stocking. It's like surgical stocking, and you just step into it and it just feels really nice, but it's easy to get on and off.
Yes. That's the one that Julia Jones talks about.
Yes.
In the doula training. Yeah. So there's so many things that happen after pregnancy, but I think without giving too much information, I had hemorrhoids.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about hemorrhoids.
I mean, they're the worst. What are my recovery tips for hemorrhoids? I don't even know. I've still got them.
Yeah.
They come and go.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, I'm a bit the same.
And here I am preaching about everyone going to see a pelvic floor physio, but the reality is that it costs so much money, and who has time?
I think it's just normalizing it as well, yeah. Like I remember
normalizing it, but also making people know that it's not normal. It's like the incontinence thing.
Yeah,
it's
sorry.
Like normalizing it so we can talk about it.
You
candidly.
get them.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Is probably what I meant to say. It's okay, because I remember when I got them, I was like, what is this? I didn't even know what it was.
Yeah.
And then I think I went to the doctor for something and she was like, oh, you've got some hemorrhoids. I'm like, is that what they are? I had no idea.
Yeah, there's photos of Jude's birth and his head's out. And because my waters didn't break with him, he's got the
came
head
out like
looking like he's robbing a bank with a stocking over his head. And it's such an amazing photo. But my goodness me, the hemorrhoids in that photo, I just want to blur them out. It's shocking.
Postpartum sweats.
Yeah, so a lot of people don't even know about postpartum sweats.
No, I had no idea.
It's so, you have a lot more fluid in your body when you're pregnant and more blood. And so once your baby's on the outside and your body's sort of going not back to what it was, but recalibrating a little bit, you can lose a lot of fluid through sweating. And some people wake up absolutely drenched.
Wow.
Yeah. It didn't happen to me, but it's happened to many of my clients.
It didn't happen to me.
Yeah. So a few tips there if this is something that you experience or that you want to just know what to do if you do experience it, is linen sheets, linen pajamas. So staying away from synthetic fibers because you need breathable fibers, but also just popping towels in your bed. Some people wake up truly drenched. Like this is already something I'm thinking about when home opens. We're going to have to be on our sheet changing game because some of our mamas are going to come in and they're just going to be sweating. And so you can pop towels down if you don't want to be changing your sheets, in the middle of the night. You can pop towels down and use those, and just having the window cracked open a little bit to get the airflow happening. But also it's really important to drink lots of water, because if you're drinking lots of water, then your body is expelling the fluids through your urine rather than through your pores.
Sweat glands.
Yeah.
What can we do, Jess, to support ourselves better with blood loss?
So this is where you're asking an ex-vegan vegetarian about, because it all comes to iron, right? We've got to eat blood-building foods. So there's a lot you can do. The blood-building foods is really important. So as well as meats, if that's something that you eat, things like beetroot and leafy greens, and also eating a lot of vitamin C with your food so that you absorb the iron.
Yeah.
And Fern was talking in one of our earlier episodes about red dates and the power of red dates for blood building. Yeah, so
I'm just going to have that now, because even now with my cycles, like since having children, even just with my period cycles, I can experience really heavy periods. So I'm always looking for things for that sort of.
But it's also, I think a lot of people think, they take their prenatal vitamin when they're pregnant and then the baby comes and they just stop taking it. Yeah. And there's a prenatal that exists that I absolutely love because it doesn't have iron in it. So it's the Natal Naturopath is the name of the woman who makes it, and her name's Mel. The business is the Natal Naturopath, and she has the prenatal, which you can also take in your postpartum. Really important to take if you're breastfeeding. Yeah. But then you take the iron separately. Because what often happens is iron's quite hard for your body to absorb, and so if you take it at the same time as you've taken magnesium or calcium or zinc, you're not going to absorb the iron. So having that as a standalone supplement and making sure you take it is really important. The reason I love hers is because it has copper in it, which helps you absorb the iron. It's also got probiotics, because gut health is really important for iron absorption. And she recommends taking 2 tablets every second day because that will optimize absorption rather than taking it every day. So it's about, if you lose a lot of blood, but even if you don't lose a lot of blood, just healthy foods. Like it's so important, and your supplements, because especially if you're breastfeeding, you're giving so much. Yeah. And even if you feel fine now, I'm the perfect case example of, well, you're fine now, but in 6 months' time you hit a wall and you feel like
Yeah.
absolute shit. So it's really important to sort of look after yourself.
Honouring the body.
That's
what it's all about.
Yeah, but we just live in this society that feels like we have to put ourselves last.
Yeah. There are so many more things that we probably haven't touched on, but you've got some amazing postpartum tips in the book Life After
and Life After Birth, yeah.
So people can go and reference them, but also like feel free to share on socials.
We would love to hear what other people did to support their recovery.
Yeah.
What your favourite little, some people go in to their postpartum thinking they're going to do all the things and then they do none of them.
Yeah.
Other people go in blind and then they have some wonderful person swoop in and go, here's what you can do. And we would love to hear other people's experiences.
Love to hear it.
And then I feel like maybe we should just, it's all good and well to tell people to do all these things, but where do you buy all the bits? So we spoke to Fern a few episodes ago, and she has a wonderful online store, Elan House of Wellness, where you can buy all kinds of
the postpartum supported
both for eating and for your body.
Yes.
There's also the Memo, which is a wonderful store in Armidale, but they're online too, and they have all kinds of wonderful, they've got Perry bottles, they've got the brand Bare Mum, who has all of these wonderful.
Yes, I love those.
Yeah. And then I also love Julie Bell. She's a herbalist. She lives in Victoria. She's not in any stores, I don't think. You just order online, but she's got herbs for everything.
Which on that, I can't wait to get Vaughan on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, when she comes back from her vacation.
Oh, yes.
She's been gone too long. Nice. I feel unmoored without her. Yeah. Honestly.
But yeah, we'll go into lots of those sorts of
the healing power of herbs.
Yeah. Amazing. Thanks, Jess.
Pleasure.
This podcast represents the opinions of our hosts and their guest speakers. Views and opinions expressed in the podcast are our own and do not represent that of our places of work. This podcast is for informational purposes only, and content here should not be taken as medical or professional advice. Please consult your healthcare professional for any personal recommendations and medical care. While we make every effort to ensure that the information we are sharing is accurate based on the best available information at the time of recording, we welcome any comments, suggestions or feedback via our website contact form, home.com.au/contact. Names and details of personal experiences may have been changed to allow for anonymity and privacy. To join the conversation, join us on social media at Home Postpartum.